Hey Jarvis, TV off. Hey Jarvis, living room light on.
Light is on.
When I started my degree in cybersecurity, I became more conscious of security and I wanted to host my own stuff locally. So I wanted to ditch Siri and have something a little bit smarter. I had some old hardware laying around, which consisted of a M1 Mac Mini that I originally used for video editing and was actually sitting up in my closet. When I started running Home Assistant, I ran it off a Raspberry Pi and I later upgraded to a mini PC on Proxmox. So I had this Raspberry Pi in the desk drawer over there. I figured that'd be a great time to start a locally hosted voice assistant named Jarvis. Now I know Jarvis seems like it's a little bit cliche perhaps, but I do have a 4-year-old that loves Iron Man and I want to build him his own Jarvis. Sounds a little bit complicated, but it's actually pretty easy setup. Let's actually go over to my whiteboard and I'll show you the whole stack and it'll kind of make sense. So I'm not even really a YouTuber, yet alone an artist. I've got Jarvis here, so we'll say that's Jarvis. And then that connects to Home Assistant, which is on a mini PC that runs Proxmox. So all the settings are inside Home Assistant. And then I've also got my Mac Mini, which is acting as kind of the brain for things. Jarvis is obviously my Pi, along with the speakerphone. So what the Pi has on it is it's gonna run Wyoming satellite. And what that does is, well, let's go. It also runs Open Wake Word. So what that does is it's always listening. And then when it hears that wake word, it starts Wyoming satellite that sends everything to Proxmox. And that Proxmox has Home Assistant and everything is right inside there. So that runs Whisper and Piper, which is a text to speech. Wyoming also runs Whisper, which is, it converts my speech to text. And then if it's a question that can be handled inside here, like, or a command, like it tells it to turn the lights off, then it sends that command throughout the house. If it's a question, like I ask it, Aaron loves to ask it, what does Wolverine do, stuff like that, then it'll send that text after it's converted to the Mac Mini over here. Once it gets that answer, it comes back here, and then Proxmox or Home Assistant converts that back into speech and sends it back to the Pi. For the speakerphone, I started researching what would be a really good speakerphone. Something with a good speaker that I could hear it clearly and it wouldn't get any crackling, and something that could pick up the voice and the wake word whether I was in the kitchen or I was in the living room, the TV's going, Aaron's playing, whatever it be. I wanted good, clear sound, and I didn't want to have to be speaking right up into it and telling the wake word and asking the question. So I started researching, and I came across the Jabra 2. I'll leave a link in the description. I ended up getting this for like $80 or $100. After I got it and I started using it, I realized it is completely overkill. This is what Fortune 500 companies use for conferences. They'll sit in the middle of the table and then they can have a big Zoom meeting with everything around it. But I will say it does work great. I ended up 3D printing, I don't want to call it a case, but it's a little stand. So this case that is for the Raspberry Pi that has a fan on it, but it's kind of layered with long screws going through. So I took off the bottom 1 or 2 layers and then I 3D printed a base and I made screw holes so those screws actually go, the screws for the case actually go all the way through into this and then they thread into it. Then I just made like a little prong stand and it hooks around the back of the speakerphone right here, powered by the USB. So the only thing I need is I have it in my little cabinet, power coming through for the Raspberry Pi. And this is a Raspberry Pi 4, by the way. And then I have the Ethernet going in and it just sits in the back of the cabinet. I do like that I was able to use old hardware for everything. One thing that I did run into, I ran into a couple issues. I had an issue where I know it wasn't the speaker itself, but it was coming in really crackled. So I had to play around with a lot of the different settings. And then I finally got everything to come through nice and clear. One thing I'm still having issues with, and if you guys know what it might be, maybe you can put it down in the comments below. I have a really long pause when I use Llama on the Mac Mini, right on the terminal. I get a pretty quick response. When I use it through the speakerphone, like I'm using Jarvis, there's a 20-30 second delay, which doesn't seem like a real big thing, but it is kind of a big deal. I would like to speed it up a little bit. I was having an issue that I got that fixed. The speaker was so good that it was picking up false readings of the wake word. I got that fixed. I had to tone some of the settings down and do that in Home Assistant.
Hey Jarvis, what do Wolverine do?
To find any information on a device or character named Wolverine. It appears to be a reference to the Marvel Comics character Wolverine, but I'm a general knowledge AI and don't have information on fictional characters.